everybody, and welcome into Perspectives. And this is not the home edition. We are back in studio. We may have an audio glitch from time to time, and if we do, just bear with us. We're taping this on Thursday, April 21st, and I will tell you up front, the second part of our show, if the second part airs after Mayfest, just turn it off, because that means somebody put this tape in and it wasn't supposed to air after Mayfest. We'll be talking about Mayfest in the second part of the show. First part, we're talking with Teresa Knox, owner of Church Studio. Teresa, welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for welcoming me, Sam. I really appreciate it.
I've got to ask the obvious question. Why did you buy Church Studio?
Well, that's a great question. I think the first answer I should give you is that I'm a Leon Russell fan, and I'm from Tulsa. I'm a fourth generation Okie, and I've always just been so enamored by all of the artists that came from my hometown. Leon Russell, first and foremost, but also David Gates and J.J. Hill. It just that whole Tulsa sound time period, primarily in the mid 70s, I was always very fond of.
You know, one of the things, too, that's always impressed me about Tulsa is we have incredible musicians here. We have incredible writers of music here. We have innovators in the music industry here. We have managers. Jim Halsey, for example, is still here. And Jim, at one time, as you know, had more people in his stable than anybody on the planet. So you picked the right place to be. What kind of a shape was the church in when you got into it?
Well, it was in a little rough shape. I bought it sight unseen. I'd been driving it around the property and a little bit sad at the condition it was in. It was boarded up, trash in the area. Of course, it's always been a working class neighborhood. The church itself was built in 1915 as Grace Methodist Episcopal Church. So it's had an extraordinary history in our city. Um, but there have been four owners between Leon Russell and myself, and each of those owners had a great idea and a great concept. Primarily, Steve Ripley, he and his beautiful wife Charlene, they owned the church 19 years after Leon, and they did a fantastic job. But the church was in pretty dilapidated condition. It took a good year, I would say, to secure it. It was flooding when I bought it. Again, not working plumbing and electrical, some big holes to the exterior. And so when we bought it, it was a little bit of like, oh my gosh, what have I done? But once I got in there and started cleaning things up, and I aligned myself with a great architect firm and structural engineers and studio consultants. It again just took a life of its own, and started the building itself started helping me figuring out how we were going to restore it and what the end use would be.
A friend of mine, the late Sonny Gray, did a lot of work at the church studio, and he used to tell a story about he stopped in at a Quick Trip one night. I guess it's a Quick Trip, and he went in to get some coffee on his way home from playing a gig, and Leon was coming out the door. So they stopped, and they're starting to talk, and, like 30 minutes has gone by before they realize, we're both tired, we're headed home. And he said people were coming and going the whole time, and nobody picked up on the fact that there was Sonny Gray, a keyboard man that's known across the country, and Leon Russell, a genius, standing there talking on the sidewalk just outside. He said it was a marvelous time.
That reminds me of the story Leon had. He was with Bob Dylan, and one of the ladies elbowed Bob Dylan and said, "Hey, do you know this guy's really famous you're talking to?" And I always enjoyed that story.
Do you have a handle, and this may be an unfair question, but have you got a handle on how many are living here quietly? And by that I mean nationally known artists.
Um, I don't know if I have a number, but as you mentioned earlier, Tulsa has always been known for extraordinary artists. I mean, look at the number of drummers
Hmm.
that came out of Tulsa. I mean, I would say the foremost, most famous, published drummer on the planet is Jim Keltner. But look at Jamie Oldacre and David Teagarden, and of course, recently we lost Jimmy Karstein.
Yeah,
I mean, this really goes on and on. But yeah, Tulsa's always been known for a number of artists. And yeah, I mean, like, Walt Richman and so many other artists that are from here and still live here, even though they currently work with Eric Clapton and so many other artists out there.
I heard J.J. Cale make a comparison one night when he said that this was a stop on the Underground Railroad, and it was also a stop where music was born. And he said, I'm talking about real music, but he said there was a time in Tulsa when there were clubs where when the club would close, the musicians would get together and they'd work together and work out new sounds. And he said, what evolved from that period, he said it just can't be recreated.
Right. And I really think that's what the Tulsa sound is. It's really less of a genre and really more of this brotherhood or sisterhood, this
Yeah.
camaraderie of artists, singers, songwriters, instrumentalists get together and not worry about the pressures that, they would see in the LA studios.
I noticed in reading a little bit about you that you've opened it as a recording studio and an audio engineering school. How's that going to work?
Yeah, so my other life, I come from the school business. I started a school in my early 20s, and so I really believe in the power of career and technical vocational education. And I've been out of that industry for about 6 years. But as I was building the recording studio and aligning myself with other studios and interviewing people for audio engineering, I noticed there was a little bit of a shortage, especially those that have experience and expertise in analog gear, because we have a lot of analog. And so I just really couldn't help myself. I have been developing a curriculum, kind of an old school, what I would consider a apprenticeship type program. And so I'm going to be taking a few students at a time. There is an online curriculum component, repurposing some of the curriculum from Berkeley School of Music. But as we all know, the real learning takes place on the job. And so we have about 100 skill sets that the students will need to master. And hopefully it will help satisfy our employment needs in the studio, but to support other studios out there looking for trained and qualified recording audio engineers.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if you didn't have people knocking on your door right now saying, hey, I want to learn more. Um, has that started yet?
Yeah, sure. It's been very organic. As you know, we've been a construction site for over 5 years. And so, created a logo, built a brand, set up social media channels, a website, SEO. So we are getting a lot of leads, not only for the audio engineering training portion, but as for the recording studio. And we've also during this time have evolved to be somewhat of a tourist attraction. We've been open about a month and a half, and I think that's the thing that surprised me the most, how many people want to come into the church and look around.
I've got to ask you a very nonsensical question, if you'll just be tolerant. Um, does the church studio have a ghost light?
Did you say ghost?
A ghost light?
What is that exactly?
Well, give you an example. On Broadway, at the conclusion of a performance, they move a light out on stage, and it's to illuminate the area for any spirits that might have stayed over after the
Gotcha.
performance. Now, I have heard some musicians and some writers say that you can go into some clubs or some buildings that used to house clubs, and they leave a light on just for the ghosts of spirits past because they still
I
visit.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of lights. We invested in a lot of lights. I know we don't have one specifically called a ghost light, but that's something I should explore. I have a lot of people ask me about a ghost in the church. Um, 1915 was a very long time ago. Of course, we became a state in 1907. So you think about all of the things that happened pre 1972 um, in that building. So, yeah, I'm glad you asked me about it.
When our crew came by to get the video, and I've got to tell you, I'm going to be knocking on your door. I'm going to call you and say, when can I come see it? I would give anything to just walk through it with you.
That would be my honor to give you a tour.
I'm going to hold
It's
you
been
to that. I might even
absolutely.
bring you, I'll bring you a ghost light.
Well,
I'll
I
do
can't
it
wait to have
myself.
that. So,
Well,
thank
Teresa,
you.
thank you, Teresa, for taking time to visit with us and break a leg on this project, kid. I hope it goes way beyond your expectations.
Oh, thank you, Sam. That means so much to me. I appreciate you guys very much.
And look for a call from me in the near future.
Okay, I'm going to be counting on it.
Okay, kid. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.